Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Capitalism, the Remix. I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have today with a really dear friend and someone who's been supporting us at the Novella Center, Conscious Venture Lab, and Conscious Venture Partners since almost day one, since I came to Baltimore. That's Brian Gette, serial entrepreneur, CEO of Ammortal. Just a really, really long, not that long, but a really great and deep conversation. I hope you enjoy it. So welcome back to the remix. Brian Gette, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you.
It is wonderful to be here with you.
You know, I've seen you a few times over the last few weeks, which has been just fantastic for me because I used to see you almost on a daily basis. But since you've had some life changes and business changes, so we don't get together as much as we used to. So I'm glad to have
We,
the time to do this.
we don't. This is special. It's always good to do anything with you.
Yeah. So, welcome everybody. This is going to be a great conversation. Brian Gette was one of the earliest collaborators, I think, with Conscious Venture Lab and Conscious Venture Partners when I first moved to Baltimore. And one of the most brilliant and interesting minds as well, which I think you'll hear today. How many companies have you started over the course of your career?
Started 5, but smashed 1.5 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's been fun. 30 some years now.
How many?
30 some years, and I'm only in my 20s.
Yeah, that's right. You're a wonder of nature. Um, look, to get started, why don't you just give us a little bit of your background, right? Tell us sort of, I know a lot of this, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself more than me do it. So, where you're from, your college experience, and how did you get into entrepreneurship, and then talk about some of those businesses. I think the smash ones are usually most interesting, but talk about sort of that whole trajectory.
Do that. I'm gonna start with a little honesty and humor here, and that's why does every entrepreneur get into entrepreneurship? And it's called a self-esteem problem. Supposedly, psychologically, if they take you back, there's something in your childhood that you felt made you unworthy, and so you tend to go after things that are complicated and difficult and high risk to prove yourself to
Exactly.
yourself. So I'm going with that as the psychobehavioral reason why I'm doing this. The other flip side of that is it's a tremendous amount of fun. So my kind of resume stuff, I'll try to be brief, is Dad was a Secret Service agent in charge of Carter's detail when he was there as president. So moved all around the country, but a lot around D.C. I spent a lot of time in Maryland, Virginia, and so on. And went to high school here in Baltimore, Maryland. Went to the University of Maryland, College Park for undergrad, electrical engineering. Then went to work for IBM and Texas Instruments, figuring out 2 wonderful companies, but figuring out what I did not want to do. And then went back to grad school of Wharton and did the entrepreneurial management program. Learned some of the basics of accounting and finance and so on. My business partner there started a company called 180s. Originally, it was called Big Bang Products. I like that name much better, but we had to change it for a lot of reasons. And we had a tremendous amount of fun. We created a product, one of the silliest products, but we sold millions of them. It was an ear warmer that goes around the back of the head. So if you ever see an ear warmer where they took the band around the back and covered it in fabric, made it fold up, that was the first product. We were everywhere. Sold those all around the world.
Everyone's seen it. Everyone's seen that.
And that was fun. So it was great to have that as your first product, because I've created many products that if they'd been my first, I probably wouldn't have continued to be an entrepreneur. So a little bit of good fortune lined up with some effort and some wonderful people and some market timing. And we created a whole bunch of different products off of that. So a lot of apparel accessories, which is that category. And we also did a $50 million jacket contract with the U.S. Marines, and we sold everywhere from REI, Saks Fifth Avenue, Macy's, etc. Every little mom and pop shop, all to all the majors, and sold that to a hedge fund. Um, a story for another day. Not from an energy standpoint, not the appropriate path that I should have taken. Um, but and again for another day. And then started a healthcare company in India and Egypt called One World Lab. Wrong time of the century, 2007 and 8, to launch an international company with what happened macroeconomically. But two great countries, enjoy a lot of good things happened for the people that we were serving. We were bringing medical quality standards, using international standards into countries that did not have that. And so there was tens of millions of people that got a benefit from that. And then started playing. I did some help with an e-learning startup. I was in the entrepreneur residence for a couple different funds. Obviously, Conscious Venture Lab being the most fun. And did a mobile tech company. So I sold in the Apple stores, Best Buy, places like that. And that was fun. And then I had a complete personal shift in perspective and purpose. I don't know, about 8-9 years ago, and the company that I'm doing now, Ammortal, is the result. So I've had the good fortune in all those companies to have incredible people with me, and it makes this all doable and fun. And then the best thing about all of this is I turned 60 this year, and I finally understand that I don't know anything about myself. Um, it's taken a long time, but it is amazing. The older you get, you start to easily recognize the things you're really bad at, right? And you start to eliminate those things that you think you're good at, but you're not. And so I think I'm in a stage right now where I've tipped the balance into more awareness, self-awareness, to
Right.
stop myself from doing things and laugh at myself. So anyway, good moments.
Um, I want to talk about those, that realization and what you think you're good at and what you're bad at. But before we get to that, tell me, look, so you are what we would normally characterize as a serial entrepreneur, right? I guess sometimes we probably use that term a little too loosely, and and it's given sort of a mythical quality to it that maybe it doesn't deserve. Maybe it doesn't deserve, right? I was reading something recently about the fact that lots of people in my position in the venture world are looking at, oh, how many companies have you started and exit, and that might not be the best metric for picking what the next most successful entrepreneur. We can talk about that, but what is it? How do you think that you come upon the ideas that you want to pursue? How do you seem to have a unique way of either understanding or a unique insight about certain types of problems. Where do you think that comes from? How does that happen?
It's an important combination of everybody else. If everybody else wasn't there, all the people that I've been around, and I'm going to say everybody else, it goes beyond that into the people that I don't even know. When I feel like I'm going to stick in 3 dimensions here, and I'm going to stick in. Yep, sorry, one second. Sorry, sweetie, I cannot. I cannot.
You shouldn't come on.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm sorry. Anyway, my lovely 4-year-old. So,
Part of entrepreneurship, the way we do entrepreneurship right now.
part of the reason why these things are created.
Yeah.
And so, so I feel like there's always this combination of the technical capability to do something,
Yeah.
right? The market's awareness of a need that it wasn't aware of before, something like that. Because I like to create things that have not been created, rather than tuning things that have, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's much more fun to me. And so there's a combination of just these timings and these synergies that come together. And I'm going to call that in the 3-dimensional space. And I'll get a little bit esoteric here. And then there's these people that come into your life and they give you an idea and something, and you don't even know causally that if they hadn't given you that idea, you would have never created that product, right? So you're always, this term is used a lot, but stepping on the shoulders of,
Yeah.
right? If someone didn't create plastic injection molding and someone didn't create fleece, there wouldn't have been an ear warmer the way it was. So there's always this confluence of things. And the more that I can recognize personally, that my ego mind, if you will, can recognize personally that I'm really just adding that last bit. I'm really just adding that last bit, even though it may look like it's fundamentally creative. You're really only tuning something. I feel like that's an important way for me to look at that. And then the rest, I'm going to get a little more esoteric. I feel like there's I'm going to use the word the ether. I feel like whenever I am creating something, there are a minimum of a dozen other people creating it at the same time. Now, I can stay in three dimensions and say that that's just because this confluence of things that we just described is occurring. Or I can just say that, I don't know, I'm a big quantum entangled thought person. And I
Yep.
believe that we are quantumly entangled, and that information and things like that is being shared in ways that we don't quite understand. And so I'll add that into my esoteric belief systems on this.
Well, it's interesting though, Brian. I mean, that's it's fascinating. I've been reading a book called Pattern Breakers by
Yeah.
Mike Maples Jr., who's a big venture capitalist who's had some great wins and some great misses as well, which I really always fascinating when he talks about his misses. But he talks about this idea of pattern breaking. So you tapped into this a couple of times already. I want to do things that people haven't already done. Right? It's more fun instead of tweaking something else and improving on the margins. And that's where big ideas come from, not on the margins, by something different. But he talks about the sort of technological inflection point, which you just sort of mentioned as well, the injection molding and these. If those things hadn't happened, the technology to do 180s had to stand on someone else's shoulders. But then you said, and I add this one little piece at the end, which is, I think, perhaps the most important piece, right? Which is what Maples talks about, which is the sort of the unique insight, right? So these things can happen, but there's an insight that says, are people going to be willing to do this? Are people going to be willing to wear this? Are people going to be willing to act this way? So that's it's sort of, you map that out. I don't know if you've been reading Maples or if
I have heard it. Yeah.
yeah. So you map that out almost perfectly,
There's
right?
there's something when I feel like creativity. I mean, there's a little bit of need, right? You may be in a point where you need to do something, right? You may be in a position, a creative position in a company, and you need to create something. I'm going to put that to the side and just say the person that is doing this out of a sense of purpose and joy, right?
Yep.
Like I talked about, it is, I want to create something. I have a desire. They may even be very specific in what they want to create. And then all this confluence of tipping point factors can empower them to put their little bit of creativity on this. I think the other thing is, I am frustrated. I would use this word for most of my life. I'm not now, but I'm frustrated with how things work. Like pretty much every single thing I would pick up, I'd be like, "Oh, come on, why?" And so there's this kind of innate, I don't know, like this can be better. I think we all do it. I don't think there's a single person on the planet that doesn't pick up something on a regular basis and go, "Come on," or an app on your phone. You're like, you had to put the button like that, so I can't touch it. Whatever that is, it's like there's this desire to improve things. And again, I think my self-worth cycle as a child, that I learned later in life probably had an impact, drives me to then want to go do something with that in the form of, I can do this. I can prove to myself that I can create this thing. That was my initial drive on creating products. And then after that is the joy. You recognize that a process of creativity, it's why we're on the planet. It's
Right.
it's why we're alive. Like being creative, I don't care who you are or what you're doing. You could be an accountant and you're just creating this beautiful way to make accounting easy. It feels wonderful. It doesn't matter what the topic is. Creativity is fundamental. And there's something about creating something that doesn't exist, that is like a pinnacle for me of joy.
Yeah, well, you and I sort of share that, that idea of creating something that doesn't exist. My background in architecture, my previous partner used to always tell me, we'd be walking down the street, says, look at that. That thing, that building, that whole edifice did not exist until it came out of our brains, right? And that whole thing of creating something that doesn't exist has been something that's always fascinated me as well. But you said something else here that I want to tap into, this notion about purpose and joy, because there's a lot of people who have that same creative drive that you and I have and look at products and services and say, why is this way? This could be better. This could have been, did you have to put the button there? A lot of people do that. But one of the things that I was thinking about, before we jumped on today is that, you know, I, I, I spent a lot of time talking about, the title of this podcast, Capitalism, the Remix, right? And the whole idea is about thinking differently about the practice of capitalism, thinking differently about the purpose of business and society. And that's where the purpose and joy comes in for me. And I talk about it all the time, and I spend a lot of time talking about it. And there's some people who hear that and they pass it by. There's some people who just dismiss it out of hand. There's some people who are curious about it. And then there's some people who jump in with both feet. Right. And you from the beginning have been one of those persons, like Joe McClinsky, like Tebow, who have jumped in with both feet and said, this is something that we care about. Right. And I'm always humbled by that. Right. Because I don't know if anyone's going to what I say is going to resonate with anyone. And if so, how? But for the people who have, our friends, the team of people that we've worked with for a long time who said, yeah, I want to be a part of this, I'm always humbled by that. And I wonder, what was it in that message that resonated with you? I think that's an important part of what we're trying to talk about here in this show.
Yeah, it's interesting. My first company, so I had grad school debt, and all of my friends were getting these massive signing bonuses and getting school paid for, going to Wall Street and investment banking and so on.
Yeah.
And all I had was school debt. It was like perfect. Like, what a wonderful moment to go start something, because if I lose, no one can take anything from me. And so I got to say that makes a big difference. If I was my age now and I'd never done this before,
yeah,
and I had college educations for kids and a big expensive house and all that stuff, it's harder and harder. And so I always tell people, like, you have nothing to lose when you're young. And the amount of learning that you will pull in about yourself and about what motivates you and what you're good at and what it brings you joy,
yep,
how to work with other people, the intensity of a startup, there is nothing like it. It'd be like getting into studio and creating a song and the intensity is amazing. And inside of that intensity, you get, amazing revelations, I would say, and amazing understandings of yourself that, if you're a 20 something and you go to start a company, I don't care whether you fail or succeed. And at the end of the day, if you don't have any kids to support, you don't have, it doesn't really matter that much. But going off and doing that, I feel like, and then once you do it once, as once you do it once, you'd never stop doing it because it's so much better. It's like it's a better business drug.
Yeah. Yeah. So all that, double click on all that. But there's something about the way that you and I have thought about what business can be in the world.
Yes.
That everyone doesn't share, or everyone certainly doesn't jump into it like we do. What is it? What sort of, what was it? What was the trigger there? What motivated you to say, hey, I don't know, this guy who just came to Baltimore, this Jeff Cherry guy, maybe I can hang out with him for a little bit.
Well, with you is easy, and I'll use you as a backdrop for my comment here. You're doing beautiful things, right? If the phrase of anyone's life should, like, what do you do? If their answer should be, as I forget, there's a guy who talks about this, you should say, I help people blank. And if this isn't your answer, reframe what you do, because that's what everyone's actually doing. I
What you
help
should be
people.
doing anyway.
And if you take that to its extreme, or continue to keep tuning that, you will continue to do more and more and more for others, right? And everything that you do, your product, your service, will continue that direction. And so I'll say this. So the idea of like conscious venture, right? Just feels good, sounds good to me. And the first time I heard it, I was like, well, that's got to be better. That's got to be better than a traditional system. And for better for me is it's more interesting and more fun and more impactful, right? It feels like I feel like that's just, you hear those words, you're like, it's got to be better.
Yeah.
And so, and then it's like the business I'm doing right now. If I am on path and I'm doing something in a space that I love and I'm doing it how I love it, I'm going to draw in people that share that same love. And in that case, I'm in a better space. I definitively, and I did a TED talk. I made a mathematical equation for evil a long time ago.
For
But
evil?
in that, a mathematical equation for evil. Interestingly, the mathematical equation for good is the same equation. It's just different values in the numerator and denominator. So,
We need to know what
one
that
of
is
the,
at some point.
when I did, okay, when I when I did that, I started out by saying that I blame anything good that I've ever done on my mother, who was she was going to be a nun. She dropped out a month before taking her vows, a sister of mercy. But I was raised by this person that constantly taught, give, get. You give to get, give to get. See the loop, but I called it good selfishness. And like whenever you are giving to someone else, it doesn't have to be altruistic. You can give because it feels great. In fact, what a better way? What a better loop. And so when I think about conscious capitalism, entrepreneurship, creativity, teaming, whatever, if you're doing this in the form of like my first company, I think there were 10 CEOs from that company
Yeah.
that went on to go do their own thing. That is awesome. It's better than the product, right? Because that's a fractalizing power that's going out of there. And so, and that's conscious capitalism. You're thinking in terms of the entire stakeholder set in this way. And also, like, who do you want to work with? You want to work with like a subcontractor, for instance. They might be just making screws. Who do I want to work with? I want to work with people that share that sense of give back, right? What are they going to be? A better partner. That's that sense of equanimity and opportunity and so on. So I feel like it's just more fun. It's more beautiful. It surrounds you by default with better people. And I think ultimately that leads to better success as the science and the measurement of what you do would support.
Yeah. Well, this is I'm really glad we're doing this right now in the sort of the cultural and political moment that we find ourselves in, right?
Right.
Because this idea of this, can we do more good? Can we surround ourselves with people that we really care about, and can we expand that to make all of us better in some way, right? Can we? I help people do X, Y, and Z. I think it's a really important message to get out there right now. And yeah, look, granted, people, many of us think good, differently about what's good and what's not good. I get it, but I just think that I love the way that we are trying to inject into the idea of business that that obviously you need to make money if you're running a business, but you have to inject into this idea of what good can I do for others as well, right? Because Raj says, we're in a very similar to, he says, we're in a business of human flourishing. We're all here to help each other flourish. And if we're not doing that, we need to reframe, right? So the same thing. I help people do so. Same, really, really similar. Um, let's
I use
talk.
the word I use the words human vibrancy.
Yeah,
The same thing. It's like and the definition could be whatever you want, but if you frame your doing, your creating, your everything with inside of is this creating human vibrancy or human flourishing, you're always going to make the right decision. When you always make the right decision, revenue and margin follows.
Right.
Your team stays with you and is loyal and applies themselves because that's how they want to feel. It's just what it is.
Yeah, that's how they want to feel, right? They want to feel that they're doing something bigger than themselves, and that leads me to a couple of other things. So we just had Tebow on a couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago, and
Awesome.
we talked about Baltimore Band of Brothers, this group that you and Tebow brought together at his place, Little Bat Farms, a few months ago, where we spent a couple of days with a men's group, just sort of sort of revealing ourselves to each other and to ourselves. I wonder what does that mean, that whole Baltimore Band of Brothers thing? What does it mean to you? And you were instrumental in getting it off the ground with Tebow. Why was that important to you?
I think there could be like bands of sisters and bands of all these things. I think the fundamental frame, the ultimate context for that group and why it's important is that all of us, 99.9% of the population of the planet, is not in any type of tribal setting. We've lost the fundamental connection that we have as human beings in groups of dozens or hundreds or even smaller, with the support structure and the separation of tasks and the ability to I don't know thrive in a way that is very connected. Um, we are now sitting behind game machines by ourselves for hours and hours and hours talking over electronic equipment. We've lost community, and we've lost in many ways, our purpose inside of our own lives, or with our own lives. And as men, since I happen to be in a man's body in this lifetime, in my world,
Yep.
in this lifetime, I'm in a man's body. The masculine, I would use the words of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The divine masculine is is being put to a test, because for the last several thousand years it was in charge of everything, and it kind of subdued the divine feminine in a way that was not in balance, and things are ricocheting back the other direction in a way that is dizzying for especially young men right now who have not watched this, have not been in as part of this. And so the idea of collecting with other men to explore, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a good father, a good brother, a good husband? All of these things, a good son. And so, and in that exploration is this tribal connection. The men did get together. I don't care what continent, what country. The men had and the women had some rituals and some connective processes. The women had some, and the men had some. And that's not a sexist way of doing things. It's a human nature way of doing things. And so I think that the men's group that we pulled together people that are open to kind of re-exploring and reconnecting in a world where men are taught, put on your armor, go outside, you're by yourself, you're competing against everybody else to get a woman, to make money, to buy stuff,
Mhm.
and so when the reality is, you always need a support group, and we don't have to actually be against each other. All of these things, and that's not how things were done for most of the time that humans have been alive. We can be collectively working together and helping us to reconnect and explore. And so that's what's been the impetus behind this, was to kind of get together and reconnect and explore tribal men, the tribal masculine, if you will, in support of being a better human being. Um,
How would you? So it's really and look, you know that I was reluctant at best to join, which because you and I talked about it, and it's been one of the most impactful things. I actually got this little book. It was for something else, but I've had it. But now every day I go in there and I'm doing gratitude and manifestations, based on a lot of things that we did there. And most importantly, two things that I write down every day. What does it mean to be a man? Right. And I came away with sort of these 9 bullet points: run through the line, be present, choose how you show up, dissolve your shame, don't run away from your emotions, right? Stay in the storm until it's done its work, leave the storm with dignity, a few others. And then 4 or 5 things about what are my sacred priorities, which I guess I had them in the back of my mind, but really sort of spending that time breaking ourselves down and then building ourselves up, was really impactful for me. So I thank you and Tebow for staying on me and getting me to come, and because it was impactful. I also have another question about that, though. My old business partner, Rick Frazier, he is always challenging me to say, to stop using the word tribe, because he says, the tribe thing is what's got us into this us versus them right now.
Mhm.
And I'm doing some writing, and I sent it to him, and he's like, "This is great." But I think you're still heading towards this tribe thing. And if you want to engage others to talk about some of the things that you care about, you need to move a little bit away from the tribal part of it, the us versus them, and try to pull people in. How do you respond and reflect?
Beautiful, beautiful question, beautifully framed, important. So this is not separation, tribal behavior.
Yeah.
This is not, what we're not trying to pull back is cave A versus cave B, right? With scarcity of resources. This is the current moment in humanity. We are a extremely capable, very aware, group of people here. We're not in this, that's my land or your land or shouldn't be, right? We have all the capability. How about this? We do not have a resources issue.
Right.
We have a concentration of resources issue. I know I'm saying things that you preach and espouse. And so at the end of the day, we don't have what they had. In their mind, back then, any tribe, your box of options was about this big. You're like, well, wait a minute. There's only so many deer, and there's only so many of these, and we got to watch out for the lion. And that stream has only so much water that that's not the case.
Right.
And so we can dispel or expel the notion of tribal conflict. Like, the tribal part that we're talking about is the connective consciousness part of this. It is the pulling people together in support of. We don't ever, when we get together, we don't go us versus them on a single topic
Right.
in any way. In fact, each meeting we get together and we're like, well, wait a minute. How about if we all volunteer for this group of men doing it? And by the way, we should just get this thing down. And if the formula works, we'll just give it away for free. Right. And so the only competing that should ever be happening in any tribe that I am a part of, or that we are a part of, would be on a sports field over something fun.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's not a competitive thing.
Yeah. No, it's a great answer. I'm gonna take notes on that, because I would love to hear. I'm gonna try to get Rick on the podcast at some point and talk to him about this, right? This different way of thinking about the tribal connectedness, not versus the tribal competitiveness, right?
And I do, time wise, can I expand just a couple of minutes on
Yeah,
this? So
yeah,
for
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
for me, I'm gonna I'm gonna go into a kind of an esoteric space here, Jeff. You know, I love to play in this space. And so, please, anyone listening to this, I am not trying to push truths. Okay? I am not trying to tell you how it is. I'm not trying to tell you that what I'm about to say is what's happening. I'll just tell you it's what I believe.
Yeah.
And for me, it is fundamental truth. And that is that this, pick your words, is a virtual reality. It is a stage. It is a classroom. It doesn't matter. You can go back into any faith-based tradition on any continent. They all say the same thing. And you can also go into any quantum physicist's mind. And if they are not worried about what they look like, they'll agree with you in the same way. This is an entangled hologram, right? And so I look at this from a full step back, and that is that
And
The universe,
when this Brian's meaning our existence, where we sit today. Yeah.
yes, our reality here.
Yeah. Our reality.
I believe that I have a higher self. That's my words, right? People would use other words. I believe that I'm the avatar in the game, and the player is my consciousness. And I'm here to learn something in this body this time around. I also believe you do this many times. And so in this life, we are all here to do the same thing. Buddha would call it, unconditional love and kindness and these types of things. But if you went to every person that was the basis for any philosophy or religion, they all said the same thing. It's stop judging, start loving, right? In a physics sense, the the word entropy, right? And this goes back to a wonderful guy named Tom Campbell who wrote books called My Big Toe. If you're interested, 3 books. Fantastic set of books. And it's essentially that we are here because the master consciousness, which we are all a piece of,
Mm-hmm.
wants to reduce entropy. And the best way to reduce chaotic energy into an organized form, and you can take this into all the layers of metaphor on this, is to love. And so this is where science, the quantum discussion, the quantum entangled discussion, and sacred philosophy find a connection. And it is that we are here. And the reason why conscious ventures feel better, the reason why doing things that help other people feel better is because it's reducing chaotic energy, because love is the greatest reducer of chaotic energy. It organizes everything, creates harmony, stops wars, creates understanding, allows you to see yourself and somebody else. And so you can look at this from a physics standpoint and just say the universe is looking to reduce entropy, and love is the best way to do that. And you can also look at this as we are all here inside of this experiment to rediscover this truth and then spend our lives in whatever our doing is to get back to that.
And this and you and I have had many conversations like this. But the fascinating thing about that whole thing you just described, that whole path you just described, for anyone out there who's thinking, might be thinking, "Oh, Brian, he's full of it." Go back. And Brian was not involved in the writing of any of these movies, but go back and look at The Matrix. Right? If you're a fan of The Matrix, it's about reducing the chaotic energy. And the only way to reduce the chaotic energy is by Neo's love for everyone and for the love he found. So it's really interesting how that all comes together. And that was popular for a really good reason. And that may have a lot to do with what you're talking about, Brian. So fascinating. I'm sure we could talk more about that forever, but I want to get to a couple more things before we have to let you go. Let's
Yeah.
talk about how do you pronounce? I pronounce it Ammortal. Is that wrong?
Either it's immortal.
Immortal. Yeah.
We were combining the word immortal, right, with an I, and another word, Amortal, which means always has been, always will be. And so, in that esoteric space, we have always been and always will be, but this body has a start date, and then it always will be of that go forward. That's the name.
So tell us, that's the company, the new company. So tell us about that company, what you're doing there, and how's it going?
We'll do it. So this has been the most fun. Another wonderful team of people. I joke it's like the Blues Brothers when they're going across the country, going, "We're putting the band back together." That's what it feels like. We're putting the band back together with us, and that's very much on path. So I feel like a lot of my original companies were on opportunity. So there was an opportunity to do something, make money selling something or create something. And this is the first thing where it was what I love, what I want specifically, like the product and what I spend my time thinking about and doing. And then I got to create in that space inside of the mission of what I wanted to help other people do. And so what we're doing is we're working on, or we have a chamber. It's called the Ammortal Chamber. We'll have several different products and several different chambers, but it's a $150,000 product, and it combines what we believe to be the greatest or best energy stack, all the different energy sciences that are out there. So, for those of you that are familiar with red light or near infrared light or light therapy, photobiomodulation, or you've been in a cold plunge or a sauna or whatever, all those type of technologies, we spend a lot of time researching them, and we are stacking and combining some of those. So what we did is we went back to nature, and we realized that 100,000 years ago, we ran around naked in the woods. And at that time, that meant we got some fantastic electromagnetic field from the earth. We got all the sun's frequencies, specifically the near infrared and red spectrums, into the body. We also had what the Japanese would call forest bathing. So there's all these sounds of nature, and there's all these vibroacoustic impacts from the sounds of nature and your own interaction with it. And there's many, many studies proving the benefit of all these things inside the body. In fact, there are many electromagnetic fields that bounce between the earth and the ionosphere. And when we hide inside with our rubber shoes and all of this, we lose a lot of the information and the energy sitting inside that. These things are fundamental to how the body operates. And so we wanted to pull all those natural frequencies back: red light, near infrared light, pulse electromagnetics, and the use of vibroacoustics, spoken word, and that, stick it into a single session, a machine, an experience. And in my world, I look at that as I'm going to jump into the esoteric for 2 seconds here. This is a speaker microphone antenna, my body.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I want to play. I want to think. I want to do. I want to be in someone with that body. And so it's important that I take care of it. And so these energies fundamentally upgrade the body. And for some people, in ways that I can't claim, because we are not an FDA approved device.
Yep.
I can just say that anecdotally, everything you can think of that you would want to do inside of a machine to make your body work better, we've seen happening. And so the individual sciences that we're doing inside of that have been shown in other devices to de-inflame the cell, open up cell wall permeability, kind of like taking your cell from a closed hard baseball to a wiffle ball. And in that wiffle ball state, you can get things in and out, so higher cell wall or higher cellular performance. And then we're flooding the system with molecular hydrogen through your nose. So you breathe in hydrogen gas, and that takes out oxidative stress. The cell is then higher performing. And then at the same time, we're working on your nervous system. And there's a vibroacoustic therapy, music, and breath work and meditation guidance in the experience that is dropping the nervous system down and getting you out of fight or flight, changing the body chemistry and your breathing nervous system so that it's in support of healing. And so by getting the oxytocin and the serotonin to go up and the cortisol and the adrenaline to come down, get your breathing to change, start breathing with your belly. And so this is all in and behind specific frequencies inside the music that do theta brainwave entrainment to go into a calm state. So we call that a state of receivership for all of the energies to be put into the body. And then we also want it to be fun. So the music's kind of beautiful and melodic, and we put a new genre of music in across all the energy outcomes every quarter so that you're never bored.
Yep.
But the idea at the end of this, I'll say this, that in 3 dimensions, this is a I don't know. It's a physical upgrade. It's a physical charging station. It's like a human charging station. It is. It's going to make you look, feel, and perform better, mentally, physically. We're doing a bunch of studies right now. The anecdotal evidence is overwhelming. We've done thousands and thousands of sessions, and we have 50 of these chambers around the country. We'll have a couple hundred by the end of the year. On the other side of this is a consciousness theater. And so while I am tuning the speaker microphone antenna of the body so that we sold, by the way, we have a unit going into the Dodgers, we're in the Broncos, the Diamondbacks,
Yep.
going to go all the football and baseball teams, I hope, by the end of the year, because it really does work on performance, mental and physical. It's amazing for healing through.
I've tried it, and I can't wait for us to get one here in Baltimore. If I had 150 grand, I'd buy one. But yeah,
We'll have to figure something out.
yeah,
And then on the consciousness side, whether you're an athlete or you're somebody else, the ability to be present. A lot of people struggle with meditation, even though it's incredibly beneficial, proven forever that it is. And so this machine kind of induces a meditative state. And that is super beneficial, especially for those that struggle with that. And then inside that state, it makes the biological healing that much better. And it makes it enjoyable. And it's nice to come out of any machine that's putting all that energy into your body, actually feeling more calm, and your battery feels charged up. So, and
yeah,
we're doing well. So, we'll do more revenue this quarter than we did all last year. We did a few millions
yeah,
last year. And we're kind of off to the races. We just pulled in a couple of magical uh, team members. Our board chair is the guy that created Siri and sold it to Apple, and created Bixby and sold it to Samsung. So, Dog Kitwans, he's joined as our board chair. We've got some heavy hitter investors that their names internationally, names in the Bitcoin space and some others. And so we're kind of off to the races, and we're going to be knocking ourselves off every couple of years, because we always want to have the wow, cutting edge piece of tech in the industry.
yep,
I'll do a share here, and that is, at some point in the future, the machine will be measuring the strength and consistency of your conscious intention in that moment. Think about this, and giving you feedback through the chamber on how well you are present.
yeah. I could talk about that forever, but well, look, we put a link to the Immortal website in the show notes. So if you want to check it out, see what Brian and his team are doing, please do. It's a really, really amazing. Like I said, I've been in the chamber a few times. I was out in Denver with one of Brian's partners. They had one in this house, and I went there. They let me sit in the chamber for half an hour, and then they felt like I was going to be their next son, because they couldn't get rid of me, because I kept coming back day after day after day to get back into the chamber. That's how good it makes you feel. So really excited about that. um Brian, two more things before I let you go. I know that you are about to become a dad again, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you're looking
I
forward
just
to that.
found out it's a boy.
Yep, I remember you told, and I'm
Yeah.
really thrilled for you. Um, as you think about all the things we've been talking about, what what's the future would you like for us all to create for your son?
Mm. Just it's easy. Uh, just a more aware, unconditional love space. I know that sounds, for many people
Ah.
listening to that, they're going to be like, "Come on, dude!" But if you truly, fundamentally, at the end of the day, it's the only reason why we're here. And if you just relax, I'm going to call it relax into that truth, and then look at your life and decide to do the things that reinforce that, it's so much more fun.
You know, yeah, I got nothing else to say about that. In one world, I would leave it right there, let that be the mic drop. But we have one more thing that we always
Yeah.
do, and I didn't prep you on this. This is the last thing we do. We're creating the Conscious Venture Lab, or the Capitalism Remix, what we call the Desert Island Disc Play Mix. So you got to give me 3 to 5. Some people have a struggle with 5. They can
Yeah.
be songs or albums that, if you were stranded on a desert island, you must have.
Hmm. All right. I'm going to pull up, because I never remember names of
That's okay.
stuff.
That's all right.
But I'm gonna pull actually here on phone. So definitely one is, you'll find a theme in these if you listen to these. So one is closer, and the one sec here. The closer by Samuel J. Just J is in the letter J.
Okay.
Another is the Sacred, by Yayama. It's Yaima.
Okay.
Follow the Sun by Xavier Rudd, Rudd. How many is that? 3?
That's 3.
Okay. The Blessing by Essie Jane. And Jane it's Essie is ESSIE.
Okay.
JAIN.
You getting all this, Zay?
And I'm sorry?
No, I asked him Zay if he's getting it. Our producer in the background. Yeah.
And I'll give you another one, and this is very few people have even heard this. It's called Let Your Heart Be Known. And it is by Steve Gold.
None of this should be surprising to those of you who know Brian. And after this discussion, and you listen to this, it won't be surprising then. Brian, as always, my man, so good to catch up with you. Such a great conversation. I want to thank you for not only for being here today, but for, for leaning in and helping out as you've done with me from day one, and being such a great friend and such a great resource and such a great partner and such a great drinking buddy and all of the above. So, really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. We will be back in probably a couple weeks with the next episode of Capitalism Remix. Thanks for joining, everyone. Good to have you here. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you soon.